the year. It's hard to believe that's already here, and so with it being a school night, we'll go ahead and jump in. We are now reconvening the August 22nd regularly scheduled board meeting of the Richland 2 School Board of Trustees, where we have just returned from executive session and we discussed student readmission requests, student admission requests into the adult ed program, personnel recommendations, releases, in-district transfers, and a reclassification of employment. We appreciate you being here this evening. We'll move on now to our inspirational moment and Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Agostini.
Tonight I'm excited to introduce Dr. Sabina Mosso-Taylor, the principal of Jackson Creek Elementary School, Richland 2's 20th and newest elementary school, as our inspirational speaker. Jackson Creek opened today. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to tour the new school with Jack Carter and Dr. Mosso-Taylor. I found her energy, enthusiasm, and excitement contagious, and I asked her here this evening to share it with us.
Dr. Davis, Chairman Plank, Honorable School Board, thank you for your support. Today, we opened Jackson Creek Elementary for the first time and welcomed our investigator scholars. We have prepared a video documenting that journey for our inspirational moment. That's 6 months and 6 minutes. We felt a picture was worth 1,000 words. We want to give a shout out to Ed Watson and Jack Carter and their team for all their hard work. They truly were amazing. And thank you to all of you. If you would all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Massa-Taylor. Thank you, Ms. Agostini. And I will say I too had the privilege of touring the school back in July, and it was really impressive and inspirational to watch your beaming smile. As a servant leader, I can tell you're very proud and doing a great job. Thanks to all those who are part of that school in the opening. And it's neat to watch the crowd as you saw the faces. It's part of the family we talk about here with the smiles, and we really appreciate you guys being so engaged. At this time, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of the current agenda. May I get a motion, please? So moved by Mr. Manning, seconded by Ms. Agostini. If no discussion, we'll take it to a vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll move on to our special recognitions. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Plank. At this time, we'll have Ms. Libby Ruth come forward to lead us through our special recognitions.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. Chairman Plank, if you would come forward to help with this part of the meeting, I'll ask you to help hand out certificates tonight. I am on. Members of the board, staff, members of community, parents, and students who are with us. I got to shuffle around my notes a little bit. We had some changes. So on the first day of school, we are excited to do some special recognitions. We have several groups. But first, we want to start with our own board. And we are recognizing several board members who have been to school themselves and completed some what we call boardmanship classes. So I'd like to call forward 3 of our board members and congratulate them on their accomplishments with the South Carolina School Boards Association Boardmanship Institute. First, we want to present certificates and silver pens to Lindsay Agostini and James Shad for reaching level 2. And Dr. Monica Elkins Johnson, we have a pin with a red stone and a certificate, and our congratulations for reaching level 5. The Boardmanship Institute offers year-round training focused on leadership skills for board members on state and national educational issues. Board members can achieve up to 6 levels of recognition by earning points for participating in statewide conferences and completing training on site in their own district. The Boardmanship Institute helps board members develop skills, stay abreast of education issues, and attend workshops focused on school law, advocacy, and legislation. Congratulations to each of you for succeeding in the Institute. This special recognition also marks a first for us, along with the first day of school. As part of our new strategic plan, we added a component in the Joy Square, which was to add recognition for our community partners. We often recognize and thank them for what they do, but we want to recognize them for when they succeed. And we have a community partner here who received a special award, and they received it in part for what they do for us, but we want to just recognize them for receiving this award. And we have members of the Windsor United Methodist Church. So we will call up Reverend Steve Gaither, Reverend Kathy Jameson, who's the Columbia District Superintendent for the South Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church, Fred and Becky Leonard, Charles Shipman, Reverend Franklin and Becky Bowie, and Kathy and Ivy Hart. Windsor United Methodist Church has maintained its partnership with Richland School District 2 for many years by serving as the site for the Skills for Life and Work program, which offers English as a second language and GED classes. In addition to providing building space, they support our students and families in countless ways. The church has become a safe haven within our community. Many of our students and families new to this country do not always feel safe and secure. However, families in our community know that Windsor United is a place where they are welcome. Windsor United staff and members have opened their doors to the district by offering community meetings, health fairs, parenting classes, tutoring classes, book clubs, school meetings, you name it. Y'all never say no when we ask. They are always open to providing additional services that help our community grow and improve access to resources. Staff and church members maintain a food pantry and stock with multicultural food for our families. They provide supplies, clothing, and shoes for students for back to school. They provide assistance at Thanksgiving to ensure families will have a meal to celebrate the holiday. Windsor United staff and members always provide assistance during Christmas by sponsoring families with gifts and food. We would like to congratulate Windsor United Methodist Church for receiving the 2017 Barbara Boltinghouse Bridge Builders Award from the South Carolina Conference of the United Methodist Church. This award is given to those who have built bridges of understanding by promoting equity and inclusiveness without regard to race, gender, age, handicap, or economic condition. And that is so fitting with our strategic plan, when one of our main principal practices is diversity and inclusion. So we cannot thank you enough, and we are so proud of you, our community partners. Congratulations. We have another first. It's just a night of firsts today. It's great. Would Mrs. Willie Dale Grimes please join Mr. Plank up front? Can you come up front? And Dr. Sabrina Suber, as principal of Richland Northeast, I believe you should join us up front as well. Tonight we are making a very special presentation to Miss Grimes, who is 83 years young, and what an inspiring story we have. She is a recent graduate of Richland Northeast High School. She officially received her diploma on August 9th of 2017. Let me tell you a little bit about Mrs. Grimes. She was born on September 15, 1933 in Denmark, South Carolina. She is the mother of 12 children, 5 boys and 7 girls, and there are 9 living today. She has 25 grandchildren, 22 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. In her early years, Mrs. Grimes walked to Poplar Grove School, a small community school located in the county of Bamberg, South Carolina. The school's highest level only went as high as 7th grade. She completed the 7th grade, but was unable to travel into town to continue her studies. She later got married at an early age. After the passing of her husband, who she had taken care of for 2 years, Mrs. Grimes had a dream of returning to high school and obtaining her high school diploma. With the encouragement of her children and her grandchildren, she returned to continue her education. Due to modern technology and modern instruction, the classes were a bit challenging, she says. But she was very determined. And although it had been 46 years since she had been out of school, she was not going to be a quitter. She constantly said to herself and to others, "I will not be a dropout twice." Mrs. Grimes' most prized saying is, "What God has for you, it is for you. I love you, and be blessed." Ms. Grimes, we love you, and I hope you are blessed. Congratulations. that concludes special recognitions for now. We have some more that'll be part of the report coming up. So, thank you.
Well, the inspirational moments keep going, don't they? At this point, we'll move on to our next item up on 6.1, the approval of the consent agenda. May I get a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Manning. Second by Ms. Agostini. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote. I did. Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. So- That's all right. That's strike one, right? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is the public participation. We have no one signed up. However, if you would like to address the board at this time, please do so now. So seeing no one, we'll move on to Section 8, which is going to be old business, no action requested. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Plank. For an update on summer food programs, we have Abby Cobb to give us that update.
Yes.
Good evening, Chairman Blank, members of the board, and Dr. Davis. Thank you. It's my great pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about the summer food program. I'm really proud of the work that took place this summer, and it's just an absolute honor to be here as a spokesman for that program. So just real quickly want to highlight that this summer, Sodexo Food Services provide 33,857 meals at our 16 sites this summer. Those sites included churches, our schools, and several community sites. For the second year, Richland School District 2 and Sodexo Food Services have partnered together to try to expand our programs to meet the needs of our students, recognizing that many of our students have a lot of barriers and have the inability to access our schools for the summer food programs. Last year, we piloted a program at Hunter's Way, and it was a great success. We had a great partnership with the Richland County Library and the Sodexo food truck, and we were able to learn a lot from that site. So this year, we expanded to 3 different sites. We, again, went to Hunter's Way Apartment Complex. We went to Freeway Mobile Home Park and Palmetto Palms Mobile Home Park as well. And these sites are identified as a high-need area, as well as a location either isolated or those students just don't have the access to easily access those programs within our schools. We served a lot of students. We had a lot of fun. Again, we could not do it without our partners. Sodexo Food Services, as you can see right there, the truck is a huge hit. Richland County Library, their Play Freely bus, as well as some other partners that I'm going to continue to discuss. And one of the great partners was our student service, our support services, and you can see the security guard there. He had a lot of fun, and he brought a lot of smiles to a lot of kids, and a lot of smiles to a lot of adults as well. In addition to that, this year, thanks to Sodexo, again, we were able to hire some on-site supervisors. It's one of the things that we learned from last year, that we really needed some staff there to help with the supervision of the staff, the implementation of the program, as well as helping coordinate some activities. So this year, we had 6 amazing on-site supervisors. We had one who served as a supervisor and 5 others. Some were interns from us last year. We actually have an intern who's going to be with us this year. We had a parent educator. We had a child development teaching assistant, and they were phenomenal. They are the backbone of this program. They were so great with our students, so great with our community partners. We couldn't do it without them. But what I'm most proud of this year is our volunteers. We have been talking about the need for us to work with our community partners, and the summer food program is just the premier example of how we can partner with our community to meet the needs of our students. This list is just a small list of the amount of partners that came out and showed up and served our students this summer. We had anywhere from churches, we had student groups, we had Richland 2 staff, we had Molina Healthcare, we had dental groups, we had, you name it, and they came out and they did it. And one of the things I'm really proud about, not only did we rely on our community, we relied on our own staff. And as you can see here, when we put the call out there, not only did our community stand up, but our staff did as well. And I think that served as such a wonderful role model. They gave up their time, because summer is busy, 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 and they gave up their time to come out and just play with kids. It was a really wonderful experience, and Dr. Franklin, I think, might be willing to take somebody on for kickball. She did a great job. But again, I just cannot speak enough about these community partners. A lot of time was devoted in getting them to come, but they really showed up for us, and we have a lot to be thankful for. And it was really just about having fun. So food is what brought the kids there. The activities and the adults who came with us were the ones who kept the kids coming. And Larry from Sodexo is in this corner, this middle picture, and he has got some major vertical. You see he's got some great jump roping skills. And so it wasn't just our kids having fun. It was just a great opportunity for adults to come out and just understand that playing with our children is just as impactful as any other type of service. So I just want to take a few. Thanks to Tony Kenyon, who comes out and who's a great supporter for me as well. He provided some great images for us to watch about the summer food program. Oh, I'm supposed to keep talking. Oh. Sorry. Sorry, Tony, we talked about that, but I didn't have that part coming through. So, see, now I changed my program, so some background music if anybody wants to hum. But anyways, again, this is just some of these amazing things. If you haven't seen the Richland County Library, kids can come in. Not only do they have access to books that they can borrow and rent out, but they can actually just go in there and draw. Sometimes they have video games. Sometimes they just come in and they just play, or they just have that ability. And having the library come out to them, how important is that for our kids, you know? See, this is why you're supposed to watch it, because it's so cute. But having the library come out really encouraged our kids and let them know that reading and learning is fun. And when we come to you, how important, how valued do they feel when we're in their community? We're coming to them and saying, hey, we want to see you. We want to be with you. Not only do you have to come to us, but we're going to come to you and show you that you're valued and you're important. And again, these different sites, we worked with tons of partners. Just things like getting tents. It's hot. It's really, really hot. And just, you know, a tent can make the world of a difference. And so we not only relied on people to come out and help us volunteer with the kids, but we needed people to help us with those types of things, of getting picnic tables and tents and trash cans. I mean, those are all kind of things, porta-johns. Those are all things that, you know, you don't really think about. But there was so much that went into this program for us to have such a wonderful outcome like this. So I just want to end real quick as far as the summer food program, again, to just highlight my on-site supervisors. They were phenomenal. I'm so thankful. I could not have done it without them. They turned an idea into a program. A special thank you to Lori Jacobson, Jane Kay, and our Sodexo. They remain open to ideas, and they remain willing to serve the unique needs of our students, and how important that is to our community to know that we can go again, with an idea and turn it into real life. Martha Jones, who I feel like she can make anything happen, including picnic tables overnight. So again, if it needs to happen, Martha will help us make sure that happens. And a huge thank you to Jack Carter for all of his support. Again, you name it, he makes it happen. Whenever there's a problem, we call upon him, and I'm so thankful he tells me yes. So again, I'm so proud of this. We are already planning for 2018. I have plans to make it bigger and better. I've already got a meeting on the books. So hopefully this time next year, I'll be telling you how we grew it even bigger.
Thank you, Ms. Cow. Any questions or comments from the board?
All right, so I would like to also have a special recognition. Okay. So I would like to ask the members and those who volunteered with Round Top Baptist Church to please stand. So I want to start off with a special thank you to Miss Viola Townsend. Miss Viola. Round Top Baptist Church was the contributing factor to us getting the site at Palmetto Palms. Miss Viola came to some of our meetings and she said that she had a calling and that this is what she was meant to do, and she did not stop until that idea came to fruition. We came up many obstacles. We came up with a lot, and sometimes we weren't sure if it was going to happen, but they went on faith that this is what they were meant to do and that it was the right thing to do, and they moved forward to create a site at Palmetto Palms, and were willing to staff that site for 2 weeks completely by themselves, not knowing how it would turn out. So because of them, Palmetto Palms was a wonderful success. So, thank you. And I would also like to recognize North Star Christian Center. If those of you are there, can please stand up. You can all stand up. So I can't, there's not enough words for me to explain my gratitude for North Star Christian Center. Chris Peterson, please wave. Chris and I have been in communication for several years and trying to discuss how we can meet the unique needs of our students, not just when it comes to access to meals, but things in a wide variety of ways. North Star Christian Center has been supporting our backpack programs for numerous years. They have an after-school program where they provide dinner meals to students who participate. It's just, you name it, and they've done it as well. And North Star Christian Center volunteered every single day this summer. Every single day. They were out there. Chris and Stefan were out there, as well as many of these youth were out there every single day supporting our students. And they came prepared with their own activities, their own music, their own van. Again, you name it, they came out and they did it. And I felt so comforted knowing that we were moving forward with a plan that we had North Star support. So again, words do not express my thankfulness for all that they've done to support our students and families.
Thank you, Abby. Ms. Mackey.
Just wanted to say awesome presentation. That's a mammoth undertaking. So bless you for spearheading that, and the folks on district staff and the community partners who took the time not only to help us, but to be here tonight. It means a lot, and just good job. Good job is not strong enough word to describe what you've done, but bless you for blessing the community.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other questions, comments? I was about to mention that.
Libby's keeping me straight.
Yes. Mr. Plank? Yes. And would the representatives of Round Top Baptist Church come up front so Mr. Plank can do this? All of you? Yes, all of you. All of you. Thank you.
My apologies, sorry.
It's fine. Go up there, too. Martha Jones, would you please go up there too? Mr. Carter, thank you. Come on. You're going to have to squeeze in just a little bit. Y'all will have to like each other. There we go. There we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. There you go. Thank you. Laura, I'm sorry. Yes. Martha, I can't see you.
Thank you, Abby, for that report, and also thank you to North Star Christian Center and also the Round Top Baptist Church for their heart of a servant. So we appreciate that and appreciate the growth as well in the program. Dr. Davis, bus fleet.
Chairman Plank, next we have an update, 8.2 bus fleet update, and Mr. Jack Carter is going to share that information with us this evening.
First, I'd like to straighten out the record. I do not say yes. I say no and negotiate from there. They're going to ruin my reputation. Well, it's very unusual that I get to come up here and say good things about transportation. But before I get into actual bus fleet, we actually had enough drivers today to man the fleet. So, very quickly, this is where we are. We had 114 last year. We still have 114, 79 regular, 35 special needs, 59 with air conditioners, which is pretty nice. Our average age is now 11 years. That's remarkable. Unfortunately, our 12 spares, the average age is 27 years. So this is how that breaks down. And I'd like to look, if you start looking at from 2007 to 2017, we turned over 60% of our fleet. You may have seen an article in the paper this summer where Horry County announced they had no buses over 15 years old. We sort of reached out to the state and kind of questioned how could that be. And suddenly we were supposed to get like 13 buses and we got 23. So that helped. And then just to show you where we were last year. Last year we were at 13.9 and we dropped it almost 3 full years in average. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions. We only had 2 buses that break down today. That was pretty good. Remarkable first day.
Board members, any questions, comments? Ms. Mackey.
Good news, a good news report, Mr. Carter, thank you. Couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that the average age of our buses is now about 11 years old. What's the state average? You've said it before, but I don't remember.
I can find that
How are
out.
we doing?
Yeah, we're pretty, I hate to say we're pretty average, but for the Midlands area, we're about average. I was shocked if Horry County really doesn't have any buses over 15 years old.
Interesting.
And they have a lot of buses, so I can get that number for you. We can ask, and they'll share every bus fleet in the state with us.
Okay. And you mentioned having enough bus drivers. I'm assuming we've hired more and we're looking better in that department with regard to
We
bus
actually
drivers?
used at least 2 relief drivers today, which are the drivers that are to go in and take over for somebody that's not there. But they've got more in the pipeline. I believe the incentives we put in place, 2 years of pay raises, added days, and the bonuses for performance and attendance has resonated with our folks.
I was going to ask that. Thank you. And just lastly, we've had some parents I know who came before us last year and expressed concerns with students getting to school a little bit late because we were having to double up on our bus routes and things of that nature. I'm looking at page 4 where 3 buses have been removed from service, but it looks like our
That's
bus
from last year.
averages. Yeah, just the footnote there.
Yeah.
The footnote there. So I'm looking at with that small number and the better average we have, are we looking this year at probably a better likelihood of having enough bus routes covered? So we do. We're not
We
having
didn't
too
grow
many
any
concerns
in,
with that?
we didn't grow any in buses. We did grow in a school. They tell us they're going to give us 4 additional buses. They just won't tell us when. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is their year group 95 buses, but they're most reliable year group 95. That'll help a lot. Today, I know it doesn't sound exciting, but by 5:30, we only had 2 buses left on the road, which
That is a
last year, the first day, it wasn't 5:30. So it was better today.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Manning.
Jack, do we have that new fleet software up and running, or is that still being
We are in the process of switching to a new routing software.
Right.
It's not fully in place yet. It's something that planning and operations or transportation will use together. We hope to have it up and operating by October. Right now, we're still using our old system plus a pencil and an eraser.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Carter, tell me about rear-engine buses in our fleet.
The old transit buses, those are the ones that the state's been taking out of service. They tried to identify all of that particular brand. Those are flat front rear engine buses, and that's where the fires have been. And they're older buses, much older, and those were the first ones they took out of the fleet. So if you go back and look at our buses, you still see we still have some 1988 buses. The buses they took out were 95, 96 year group buses. It's just and it's a problem across the nation with that particular type of bus.
And do we have any of those en route right now?
I think all of ours are gone, but I need to
Okay.
confirm that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Davis. We'll move on to next item, 9.1. This is going to be new business, no action requested, policy proposals. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Plank. I bring before you the proposals for the following policy revisions. They are policy revisions IKA, grading assessment systems, BEDH, public participation at board meetings, BEDI, news media services at board meetings, BEDL, board members and electronic communication, BEDM, electronic participation in board meetings, BEDN, board members' use of district-owned portable devices, BGD, board policy process, board review of administrative rules, BHC, board staff communications, and BK, board membership in professional associations. And Dr. Marshalyn Franklin will share those proposals with you.
And before you begin, Dr. Franklin, first, that is probably the best thing to be able to transfer to Dr. Davis for the list of policies. And before you begin, Dr. Franklin, if we could take these one at a time. And also, I know we've talked as a board that we'll editorial elements of change we will run through our board secretary, Ms. Tamika Sherman. Tonight, our discussion will surround content changes. So with that, did you have anything you'd like to start with, Dr. Franklin?
No, just I'm ready for your feedback.
Okay, any questions or comments from the board? I'll start with my left, Ms. Mackey.
Page 2.
Which policy? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm just going in order. BEDI. I'm sorry, BEDI, news media services at board meetings. At page 2, on page 2, it mentions that the chair is the official spokesperson for the board. It looked like the first sentence, it was already clear, but I guess there was another sentence added for clarification, and that's fine. My question is that if other board members ever give statements or are interviewed, and it's probably a board question I have here, should there be a disclaimer made saying that you're speaking on behalf of yourself and not the board? If the board chair is the official spokesperson, do we need to offer a disclaimer if we're ever, I guess, speaking publicly or being interviewed? Is that something that we need? I don't know if that's something we need to insert into policy, but is that something that we should take into consideration? What are your thoughts?
I throw that out to the will of the
What say
board.
you?
Any discussion?
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, Mr. Shad.
I would think any comment that we make is considered unofficial, and if we are specifically requested to make a comment on behalf of the board, we should direct that to the board, to the spokesperson, which is the board chair.
Thank you, Ms. Shad.
Just one comment. I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, Mr. Shad. You're saying that it's unofficial, but as individual boards, we can make comments as an individual. Am I correct with you saying that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Ms. Mackey, any other follow-up on? Ms. Agostini, did you have something? Okay. Ms. Agostini, did you, nothing on that first policy?
No, not on the
Okay.
first policy.
All right, so Ms.
BEDH
Agostini?
is yes.
Okay.
If we go to under agenda items, third paragraph, the chairman also reserves the right to limit time for individual speakers. Public participation will not exceed 5 minutes unless waived by a majority vote of the board. We've been practicing 3 minutes. So thoughts on changing the 5 to 3 minutes?
Ms. Mackey?
I don't know if you're opening that for discussion.
Yes,
You know,
I am.
We've been doing 3 minutes, but it doesn't seem as if we've had, I know in the recent years, an influx of public participation, I would be fine with allowing 5 minutes unless we want to adhere to 3. I would be fine with that.
I would like to adhere to 3.
That would be my decision as well.
3?
Yeah.
Well, then we just need to change that. You got it?
That was it. Thank you.
And before we move on to the next one, backing up a second, Ms. Mackey, did you have any other comments related to Mr. Shad's suggestion on that first one? Are you okay with it as stated?
I didn't. I was just asking if we need to be official in delivering a disclaimer saying that we are not speaking on behalf of the board, but it's our individual comment. But I guess that's something that's left to our discretion. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'm fine with that.
Dr. Caution Parker?
I do believe that we do
Yes.
need to add a disclaimer. For
writing.
anyone speaking on behalf of the board or saying I'm speaking for myself, but making it very clear, they are not speaking on behalf of the school board. Only the board chair is speaking on behalf of the school board. I think we need to have a disclaimer.
Are you saying disclaimer as in writing, or we
Yes,
need
in
to issue
writing.
that disclaimer when
In
we're
writing.
speaking? I'm fine with that.
Other input on Dr. Caution Parker's suggestion? Ms.
I agree
Agostini?
with Dr. Caution Parker's suggestion.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Manning?
can I clarify? So we're saying that if the Northeast News calls every board member, since he's president, I like to call on you since you come to our meetings, and asks us for some sort of statement on an issue, that if I were to give some sort of comment, I would need to, in writing to the board, let them know that I made comment on behalf of myself as a board member. I'm just trying to understand clearly what we're saying, the mechanics of how it would work.
No, I just believe it just needs to be clarified. You're speaking on behalf of yourself,
Right.
not the board. So many times we get questions, and the news media does call us. I never answer the phone or call them back. But so many times we do get a lot of questions. But the board chair speaks on behalf of the board. And I think that sometimes, and I'm talking about years ago, probably when none of you all were around, but years ago, there were some problems with that. Board members speaking on behalf of themselves and really speaking for the board. And there's a lot of confusion with that. I just think we need to be very careful and have a disclaimer and make sure that we adhere to that.
And I agree with the idea, and I mean, our policy says that the board chair is the spokesperson
Or
on
just
behalf
refer
of the
who's
board.
calling to the board chair.
Yeah, as far as policy and putting in policy something about how individual board members should put disclaimers, are we saying we need to put that in the policy, though, or are we just reiterating that that's how we should conduct ourselves?
I think that we're just saying that's how we should conduct ourselves.
Okay, so not to add it to the
Right,
policy,
no,
just a
don't get on
matter of
first.
practice. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I was just trying to make sure I understood. If we wanted to put something in policy, or if we were just clarifying how we conduct ourselves.
Any other questions?
And by the way, that was on behalf of James Manning. the board member.
Yeah, I would agree with that, so we're saying, for clarity's sake, Dr. Franklin, that the as stated would remain, but that we would be clear in our discussions in the media.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll continue on. Thank you, Ms. Agostini, for your last update. Any others?
Not for that one, but I have another comment for BEDL, just kind of going in order.
Ms. Mackey?
I'm sorry, I didn't like to be recognized. With regard, BEDL, board members and electronic communications, I just had questions about that. Was this simply an insertion according to statute? Was it recommended from the School Board Association? And I'm asking because I know Mr. Shad, well, probably several of us did. Mr. Shad and I sat in the same seminar this past weekend where we talked about FOIA and interpretations of the law with regard to electronic communications and things of that nature, and this pretty much our interpretation of this would prohibit any kind of communication other than just sitting here. And I want to make sure that I understand the interpretation of this, and was it from the School Board Association?
Right, this is the recommended policy from the School Boards Association regarding the communication of board members with members of the
I got you.
public, of the board members or district staff.
Okay.
And Dr. Franklin, without seeing any sort of highlights, underlines, or crossouts, was there
It's
any
a new
change?
policy.
This is new. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
And, yes, Mr. Manning.
And I apologize, I didn't follow our best practice in communicating ahead of time. But sometimes my wife and daughter text me during the meeting. Yeah, I have a seventh grader, so. But is that okay, or is that against board policy?
And before you respond, the way this is written, it says that nothing is. That
Right.
no kind of communication at all. But the seminar that we sat in indicated that if it's a personal device, can communicate on your personal device, and this looks like any kind of communication at all is prohibited. I'm sorry, I spoke out of turn. I think.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Shad.
Dr. Franklin, who recommended this? Okay. Where is that reflected on this policy recommendation that the School Board Association recommended it? Okay. Did the School Boards Association provide any summary, any rationale behind this particular recommendation, other than I see the legal reference to FOIA, which I know we had some changes with FOIA, but did they give any rationale behind this particular one?
They did not.
Okay. They did not give us any indication that this was mandatory, that we had to adopt this based on the new FOIA statute, correct?
No, but I can check with Libby.
Okay, I think your answer is correct, though. And I do want to reference, Mr. Chair, that, as Ms. Mackey stated, we just came from our school law conference, and we had some very able attorneys in this one talking about FOIA. In fact, they just happened to be our attorneys, and they shared with the group about being careful with using district devices, and because it's FOIA-able, if that's the word, but at no point did they mention or say that there was a prohibition from us using our personal devices during meetings. I would actually say it was almost encouraged to use your personal, if you're talking about personal stuff, of course not board matters. But yet this recommendation from the School Boards Association not only talks about the use of district-owned devices, but also our personal devices. I'm uncomfortable with that. And I hadn't wrapped my mind around with it. I know this is first reading, so to speak, but as of right now, I'm not in favor of this. I just want to be on.
What suggestion would
record.
you like to see, Mr. Shad?
The elimination of this entire recommendation.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Manning.
I may say and again, this is on my behalf, I think my personal communications on my personal cell phone, I think is something that I would like to see allowed. I mean, I'm okay if we say, while we're conducting board business, I shouldn't be, messaging other board members, or if we want to do something like that where we could say there's some sort of board activity, if that's what we want to do. But I would at least like to allow for the personal component of that to be allowed
I think.
at minimum.
Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
Ms. Mackey, and then
I think
Dr.
again,
Elkins Johnson.
Regardless of what action we take, I think at the end of the day, at the crux of the matter is intent. I think that this is probably trying to eliminate ill intent, and it would depend on, so we're on our personal devices, and I guess the assumption is if you're on a device, then you're doing something surly, and that you're, leaking information to someone or doing something that you shouldn't do, or, chatting with friends or whatever. But I think the crux of the matter is intent. So either we'd have to reword it, I guess, for our own devices, no pun intended, to indicate intent, or how do you monitor someone's intent with regard to communication?
Yeah, Dr. Elkins Johnson.
And I will agree with Mr. Shad. I would love to see it removed because I, too, attended the law conference and had some questions about personal cell. And it was understood that it's okay that you can remove yourself from a board meeting or step away as long as you're using your personal cell. So I would love to see that removed or clarified.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Any other input on this one? So I'm going to be inclined to say that I'd like to see this policy remain, we need to, I would agree that we want to look at the language. I think there are several, the third paragraph, for example, referring to public, receiving public text, tweets, whatever, during a meeting. I think back to what Ms. Mackey was talking about in 10, I mean, the reality is, especially in this day and age where dinner tables and meetings, we live with our phones in our hands. The idea behind here is we're doing the people's work here. We're working hard to both in executive session and in public session to be able to be focused and remain in what we're doing. And at the same time, we're going to have kids who are going to have emergencies and potential for that. So I think that bringing the personal use with a suggestion that to step away and to be able to deal with an emergency situation or something that has occurred that would render you do that. But and at the same time, the question is, where do you put that subjectivity? I think it would be at the board member's discretion, understanding that they are elected officials and would need to explore their own value of the emergent nature of the personal text, email, or what have you. I think it is very important, though, that this remain and it aligns with what our core for, the big one, professionalism there, and I think that's important. And so I think we'll just need to work on this a bit. Any suggestions on wording or what that would look like tonight?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Manning.
I'm sorry. Again, for me, I agree with you that I think it should be allowed for personal business and that we should probably look to, curb things that may be distracting or other things at board meetings. One of the recommendations I might have is that since we may have an overhaul of this, could I recommend it come back again for no action at the next meeting, just to make sure we're all okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Are you okay with
Yeah,
that?
I'm good with that. How does everyone feel about it? So we'll pull that one for I know we want these backlog, but I think this is an important one that we'll need to workshop a bit more. So go ahead.
Say that, would you repeat that, Dr. Franklin? Would you repeat that?
The policy refers to communication regarding official school board business, agenda items, or other board matters. First paragraph. From the bottom.
From the
Third
bottom?
line from the bottom, from the first paragraph, third line from the bottom.
Referring to electronic communication about board business, items on the agenda.
I got you.
Or other board matters.
Or other board matters, yeah.
I agree, so we'll bring it back.
Yeah, so we'll pull this one and bring it back. All right, so let's look and see where we are. So we've done BEDI, BEDL was what we just talked about. Is there any discussion for BEDM? Okay, Ms. Mackey?
Mr. Chair, the first paragraph, and I've already sent this to Ms. Sherman, yes, brain freeze there. Just changing the word restraints to constraints, but I think you've already gotten that. But the last paragraph, hang on one second. Yeah, and with regard to page 2, will not permit in public session any exception of personal complaints about school personnel, et cetera. I'm not sure how we'd handle that. If someone comes to public participation and says things that are of a personal nature, do we just shut it down? How do we handle that is one question. But also, I think it's redundant because on page 3, we go into great detail about not, complaints about school personnel and things of that nature. I don't think we need that sentence on page 2.
Ms. Mackey, may I get
What
clarity
policy?
on BEDM? Is that where you are?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
BEDH.
So that's where I'm looking for the other pages.
I'm sorry,
So
I've gone under BEDH.
any
But yeah,
questions
restraints to constraints, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
okay, thank you. So BEDM, editorial change. How about BEDN, Nancy? Is that
Is it
where you
Mary?
were?
I was on Mary.
Oh,
On
you were on
BEDM.
there. Sorry, forgive me.
I do have a
There's-
question.
Okay,
I
Ms.
guess-
Ms. Agostini.
Yeah.
Thank you. The last paragraph, I don't know if it's, and pardon me, it might be just wording, but I need clarity on that.
Can I expound upon that? Are you
Ms.
asking
Mackey.
about the?
BEDM,
Mhm,
the
I am.
electronic
Allowed by
participation.
majority vote, that part?
Yes, and it might be just the wording. If maybe a couple of words were changed, then I would understand it, but it seems awkward and unclear.
It sounds as if I have that written down too.
Ms.
It sounds as if
Okay.
you're only allowed to electronically participate in a meeting if the majority of the board votes for that to be permissible? Is that what the understanding
That's what
is?
it, mhm.
I don't think we do that. Do we vote on that? I don't think
No,
we've
we've
been doing
not
that, have
voted
we?
on that.
It sounds like where the majority of the board has to vote for that to be permissible, and I don't think that's something we've been doing, have we, or is it just understood?
No, we have not been doing that. We have, it reads here, will only be allowed by majority of the board present and voting at a particular meeting.
I don't see that as the board voting. It sounds to me like it says by majority, so the majority of the board has to be present. I don't know what the voting has to do with, but this says the majority of the board's present and voting, which I don't know what that means, because we can, potentially, you could call into a public meeting where there's no voting, like a workshop or something like that.
So is it saying that we're voting to allow that person to do that, or is this?
Mr. Chair,
So, yes, Mr. Shad.
the way I'm reading it, it looks like this is already policy. Right, Dr. Franklin?
No, sir, this is also a new recommended
All
policy.
this is brand new?
Mhm, This is a model policy. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Well, the way I read it then was it's allowed, provided that we have a majority of the board vote, present, which means we then have a quorum, and then voting, as I read it, to go into executive session. So in other words, we're voting to go into executive session and also allowing whomever to join in that executive session electronically. Because of course, we're not taking votes in the executive session. This is just the vote to go into
To
executive
move.
session, along with that member who is physically absent.
Ms. Agostini.
Dr. Franklin, again, this is something that was sent to us by the School Board
Boards
Association.
Association.
May I suggest that we place a phone call to them to get clarity on exactly what this paragraph means?
Sure. Got it.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this policy? I tend to agree with Mr. Chad's analysis of that, but it would be nice to get a little bit of clarity.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Manning.
I'm sorry, and again, I do apologize because I didn't follow our own rules and send this in ahead of time, but
Strike
I
one.
think at the last meeting where there was thank you, 3 votes, I'm out.
Strike one, brother.
No, the 3 strikes, I'm out. You asked during as chair, when somebody was called in during executive session, just to clarify that, verify that they were, in the room by themselves. I wonder if we shouldn't put that in the policy, because I think that way, if we put that in the policy and that then becomes what we have to do by policy, that's a lot less uncomfortable than just a practice that we do.
Sure.
If we just put that there will be verification from the person dialing in an executive session that they're in the.
Ms. Mackey.
No, I agree. I know with concerns of confidentiality, that would be good too.
Thank you, Mr. Shad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to direct our attention to the second paragraph, second sentence, which I think is unusual, but I do think it covers Mr. Manning's concern, where any member that is participating in such fashion will identify the persons present in the location from which the member is participating. So that, if we approve this, then that should cover, instead of kicking the person out, you just identify who that person is and still make sure that we ensure consent.
Which we actually practiced in the last meeting with.
Well, let's talk about that. If my wife and I are on a conference and she's in the hotel room and I make sure that I go out on I go into an area where she's not there and I don't have it on speakerphone and I'm just listening to what you all are saying, aren't I in compliance with executive session just because she's physically in the same hotel room? I need clarification.
Mr. Manning.
Chair, I would think that as long as she can't hear, you're part of the conversation where, right? And as long as, if I'm in a bedroom, I would count that as by myself, I would count that as a room where there is nobody present, right? Not just but if you're in a hotel room where there's no separate bedroom, I think that would be hard in any, unless you go in the bathroom.
Well, again, I think the intent here is, again, coming back to yet another one of our core values, which is integrity, and that is I'd like to get a bit out of the weeds of getting too much into this, because when we're in executive session here, when it comes to electronic devices, when it comes into protecting and privileged information, that the door is shut. I think as we're and if we are off-site calling in, that we would understand that we would want the same environment. And so, and we'll also, I believe it is important we'll check that at the time, and it's to the person's response at that point. Right. Thank you for that discussion. Any more discussion on BEDM, Mary? Okay, we'll move on to BED and Nancy. Any questions, concerns, comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next one, which is going to be BK. Questions?
Nothing pressing, just a quick question.
All right, Ms.
The
Mackey.
board, as it deems appropriate, which is the only insertion there, are we anticipating times where we would not be a member in membership of the School Board Association, or is that just for technicality? Is the board, as it deems appropriate, will maintain membership in the School Board Association, which is fine, but I'm wondering if there would ever be a time when we think that we wouldn't be. This question.
I open that up to the board.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Manning.
I could potentially foresee if we had a very tight budget year, where we might deem it's not appropriate to pay the fees associated with that year. Or I could potentially see where we just, there are agendas that the School Boards Association would have where we might totally disagree at some point, in which we might say that we don't agree to the point where we don't want to be members. I mean, I think that's a far cry, but it just leaves it open just in case those type of things would happen.
Sure. Thank you. Other comments? No, I do think it gives us an opportunity for an out, if you will. So, all right. With no other questions on BK, let's move to BEDH. And thank you for everyone out there hanging in there as we go through this. Any comments, questions?
Just for BDH.
Ms. Mackey.
I did already send it in, but just for paragraph on page 2, the sentence that ends, will not permit in any public session any exception of personnel complaints about school personnel, officials, et cetera. I was recommending that might be a little redundant, because we've already discussed that ad nauseum on page 3, and I did send that to Ms. Sherman, unless you just wanted to have it there for strength.
So if you would, tell me what you're proposing to be removed. Which paragraph?
On BEDH?
Yep.
Where it says that people who are speaking will not permit in any public session any expression of personal complaints about school personnel, personal staff, etc. I didn't think we needed that, just because we're talking about that in ad nauseum on page 3. I just didn't think we needed that sentence.
So where is it specifically? Forgive me for, I'm just searching.
The last sentence on page 2, second paragraph. Page 2,
The board will not permit in public session any expression of personal complaints about the individual school personnel.
So we just discussed it at great length on page 3.
Yeah, because we go back in the third paragraph on
and we really
page 3, the
we
board will
really
not
delve
permit in
into
any public session expression of personal complaints. Anyone opposed to removing that? Mr.
Chair,
Shad?
just for clarification, Ms. Maggie, the second page, as I'm reading it, the second page, that part that you're talking about is under agenda items. If you look at the bottom of page 1. So as I read it, that is when someone in advance says, I want something on the agenda, the chair approves it, and then they talk specifically about personnel or what have you, and then then it goes
the
to
second
page
one's
3
open
on the open
forum.
forum, our 3
Yeah.
minutes, right?
I'm fine with
Thank
that.
you, Mr. Shad. Two separate
Thank you.
headings. So we're good as is?
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Move on to BGBGD.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Agostini.
On the second paragraph, I would like to see, under proposals regarding policies may originate with a member of the board, the superintendent, a staff member, and it goes on to list a number of people and groups that can submit a policy. I'd like to see us, since we're hearing so much about the South Carolina School Boards Association proposing these policies to us, that we include them by name in this policy.
Which page are you on?
Is-
It's the first page.
Okay.
Board policy, process, board review. Second paragraph, it gives a listing of people who can
Ah.
come up with a policy.
Questions, comments? Dr. Cheryl Caution Parker.
I guess I'm asking a question, Ms. Agostini, because every year we receive updates from the School Board Association on laws and regulations that have passed during the year that are now going into effect at the beginning, say, of the school year. So that's where we get our information from. So I guess I'm just not quite following what you're saying.
Ms. Agostini.
I'm just suggesting that since they're the ones that are driving the train on all of these policies, and, we've just had 3 introduced to us. My understanding is this is stating who is able to come up with a policy, since they are the forerunners or the leaders in terms of helping us develop policy.
Okay, and I guess I'm looking at it,
And I might be looking at it
saying,
wrong.
and I'm just looking
Okay.
at it, that's how, I'm looking at it as it goes without saying, but,
Well,
Mine
then,
is so that the general public understands where the policies are coming from, or who's able to do it.
Mr. Shad.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Manning, for yielding. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the civic group term would cover the School Boards Association.
I do agree with that.
Mr. Manning.
Yeah, sorry, I guess I looked like I really wanted to say something. I wasn't sure whether I was going to say it or not, but, one of the things that's come to mind is, if a board member wants to propose a policy and the rest of the board doesn't want to address that policy, how do we handle that? So, for instance, if I want to keep bringing up dress code and y'all are like, been there, done it, don't want to do it anymore, do we need some way of handling, other than the board chair having to always be the one to say, no, we're not putting it on the agenda? It can get awkward at times, and I don't know if we need a process where it needs to be another board member that also wants to see it done, or I'm not sure exactly what I would want out of that. I just propose maybe thinking through that process a little bit as a board, because we potentially could have somebody really, I don't want to gum up the works, I guess, so to speak, if it's just one person that wants to see it, and it's not really the will of the board to address it.
Sure. And you're talking about relating to actually having it as part of the agenda?
Part of the agenda, or move that policy request forward past just a request to look at it.
And we now have a governance committee. That may be a good topic to discuss
Okay.
in the governance
We
committee.
can address that there.
I think that would
Come
be a
back
good
to
place
it.
for that. Also, I think in this last paragraph on page 1, where it says proposals from external sources will be presented in writing and given to the superintendent for review, would capture that School Board Association as well. Any other questions, comments on BGD? Okay, we'll move to BHC. Questions, comments? Ms. Mackey.
Page 2, and this is a question, not a comment. Where it talks about the problems of staff concerns, I wasn't sure I understood.
Where are you on the
In
actual
very
document?
The very first paragraph on page 2, staff members, the second sentence, as such, staff members are also reminded that board meetings are public meetings. As such, they provide an excellent opportunity to observe firsthand the board's deliberations on problems of staff concern. Was that supposed to be on problems or staff concerns, or problems about staff concerns?
Mr. Chair, can I
Ms.
just
Agostini.
suggest something? Because I have that highlighted as well, but if we look at the paragraph just below that, under board communications to the staff, it says, "of staff interest and concerns," which would make sense if you put "of staff interest and concern" up above. I think maybe a word was omitted. Yeah, I have that as a question mark as well.
Board members, other questions or comments in regards to that specific statement? No, I agree. Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this particular policy proposal? Okay, last one, policy IKA, Grading Assessment Systems Board.
Not a question about the policy.
Ms. Mackey.
Not a question about the policy, Mr. Chair, but I think we discussed last year, and refresh my memory, how we were going to handle the adoption of the grading system is going to be that. It's a state mandate. It's not something we do locally. How we were going to address, I think, students in their class ranking, we had a conversation about that. I think there was going to be like a grace period to allow them to remain, I guess let their rankings remain intact before we adopt this, before this system affects their GPA or something like that. Just curious as to how we're going to, I don't remember who presented on that last year.
Dr. Plankton?
It went into effect with the 9th grade, starting with the 9th grade.
Oh, okay.
And,
Gotcha. So 10th, 11th, and 12th will maintain their class ranking based on the previous grading system. then.
Correct. They were locked.
perfect sense.
And we started with the 9th grade with the new 10.
They were grandfathered. No problem. Thank you so much.
Well, it's not actually grandfathering, but it's staggered.
Dr.
I'm
Davis?
fine with that.
Dr. Davis, what were
I apologize, I was going to let you finish the
I'm sorry.
statement.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Wanted to make it clear that the current 12th graders who were 11th graders last year, they are on a 10-point grading scale.
Right.
So I don't want it to be
But it was
confused that they're still using the 7-point grading scale to calculate their GPA.
Right, it just started totally with the 9th grade coming in last year, that they would be the first group that would go all the way through. Does that make
So
sense?
class ranking can change. Their class ranking will fluctuate and change. So it's not the class ranking is not locked in. It was locked in at that time. But as their courses they took last year is now on the 10-point grading scale, those two things are combined in order to give them a new
That's correct.
GPA, which does affect their class ranking.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Gregory. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Any other questions, comments on this particular policy? Dr. Davis?
For the sake of prolonging the board meeting, Mr. Chair, I would like to touch, if you don't mind, just for some clarification and point of information on a policy. Particularly, I think it's a policy, it is BK. No, it's not BK. Sorry about that, I had it pulled up. But it was during our discussions about public participation, the policy in which Ms. Mackey was having questions about. I need clarification on whether or not we are saying that during public participation in public session that we are or are not permitting the public to specifically single out an employee of the district or school for any particular grievance or issue. Because in the past, we have not done that during public participation. It was in general what the issues of concern were, but they've never said someone's name specifically.
Right.
So I need clarification on that.
So the clarification, I believe the language states there that they will not reference school,
Okay.
reference personal students, teachers, things of that sort. And that will just be, have to be advised for those who sign up in the beginning, and then during the actual public participation would be interrupted at that time if it were to go to that point, to remind them of the rules in that.
So you're saying that
Ms. Mackey?
we'll let them know beforehand? Because typically when someone comes with a hot topic item or they're passionate about something, they typically do indicate school personnel or the schools because that's the nature of their grievance. So do we let them know beforehand that personal predilections can't be aired, or how do we do that?
Well, I would like to, or Dr. Carson Parker first, and then I'll explain what I have.
My understanding, and in years past, it's clarified at the very beginning when they get up to speak. You know, please understand that we cannot address any personnel issues and blah, 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 and go through that before they even speak, for clarification.
Sure, and I agree with that, and I will add that to one of the items that was mentioned prior to someone speaking. And then if there's someone who signed up beforehand, I think it would be appropriate for us to run through those as well. I know that's what we did with the last public participation. Dr. Davis, does that help?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Shad. Yes, sorry. Doubling it up.
Speakers may offer objective comments, subjective.
School operations, you're saying.
On school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit in public session any expression of personal complaints about individual school personnel, people, or any other person connected with the school system. I'm sorry, and the only reason I'm bringing that up, because it just hit me as an attorney, is we just have to make sure that we're careful. I do agree with not personalizing it with school personnel, but if it's an issue of a school, then I just want to make sure we're not infringing upon that person's free speech during a public setting. But I know you can handle it.
Yeah, we'll handle it.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that, I mean, they have in our policy now may offer objective comments about in this cooperation. So I'm fine with the way it's written. Did anyone want any change on that? I think it'd be important to address it on the front end and before, if someone has signed up, and if someone steps up during public participation that they had not previously signed up, I'll make sure that we go through that.
I'm not sure what we have outside, but it'd be good if we had something in writing when they first sign up saying, or at least giving some type of,
yeah, we do.
not
There is a
warning,
form. I'm
but
not
make
sure.
them notified of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it, and I mean, I would like to go as far. I know this, if we did have this particular policy available to them at that time. I mean, and without having an event, we really don't have that much in the way of public participation, but I think it'd be important to have several copies available. Thank you, Mr. Shad. Okay, any other comments regarding the policy proposals? Thank you, Dr. Franklin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Davis. All right, next we will move on to, where are we here? 10.1, agenda items for the September 12th, 2017 meeting. Dr. Davis.
Thank you, Chairman Plank. For the September 12th, 2017 meeting, we have the back to school report. We'll discuss we'll, in the executive session, have student expulsions and appeals, student readmission requests, technology report. We'll also have an updated report on summer professional development as well as faculty focus. In addition, we will look at approving our policy revisions that we discussed today, IKA, BEDH, BEDI, BEDL, BEDM, BEDN, BG, BGD, and BHC and BK. In addition, we will have policies, proposals for revision IHAC, Social Studies Education.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. What was the policy that we said we were going to pull? BEDL? Okay, so if we can amend that one for, that will not be part of the approval process, but be coming back for a second no action requested reading. Any other items board members like to see added to next agenda or future agendas? Ms. Mackey?
Just a question, it doesn't have to be a board agenda, but I've asked a couple of times, and I'm curious to, I think I'd love to have an update. It doesn't have to be something on the board agenda per se, but an update as to how things are going at Blythewood Academy since we've had younger population there, and I'd love to know how that transition is working with our younger population, just to get an update and to get a feel for how that's going. I don't have a preference as to the form in which we receive that, but I'd love to be able to find out how that's going.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Thank you. Any other additions, questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our second public participation. We have no one signed up, but if you would like to address the board, now is the time to do so. And be prepared, I'm going to be giving you a slew of things you can't do. Seeing none, we'll move on. Oh, we do? I'm so sorry. Okay.
Just got a question about BEDH.
And before you start, if I could, I would like to just run through what we were talking about related to public participation.
Okay.
So the meeting is recorded.
Okay.
It's available for viewing on YouTube. You'll
Okay.
have 3 minutes to present. And
Okay.
just so you know, we as a board will not be responding to that
Okay.
at this time, but we'll have someone from the district either get back to you this evening or follow up with you. And we'll be we'll be updated on what that is.
Okay.
And then now, if you would refrain from making any personal comments regarding students, teachers, or things of that nature.
I'm glad
and
you
if
brought
you
that
would
up.
start with
My
your name and your
Okay.
address for the record, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
it's Rhonda Boyd, 30 Twilight Tier Court, Elgin, South Carolina, 29045.
And Rhonda, what was your last name again?
Boyd, B-O-Y-D.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So then my question that someone else is going to get back with me on would be, if I've done the proper procedures as far as reporting someone at the school. I have concerns at school concerning a teacher. I've done the proper procedures. I went to the principal. My question is, what is next steps if you all are not the next step? Because what you're saying in that policy is you all will not handle anything by name, so that means it still hasn't been handled. So that's my question.
Okay.
For someone to get back to me. Would someone like my phone number?
Well, I think we'll be able to get back to you tonight on that. That's
Okay.
a pretty quick response.
Okay,
Okay.
that was it.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Boyd. Okay. Let's move on now to our item number 12.1, board member superintendent comments. I'll start this time with my right, Ms. Agostini.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Moso Taylor for providing us with our inspirational moment tonight, and Abby Cobb for all you do. To our community leaders that we've seen so many of them tonight, thank you for helping us provide the much-needed services. Next, I would like to thank the random stranger who bought me breakfast this morning at the McDonald's drive-thru on Clemson Road. What a treat it was to start off my school year with a free breakfast. Additionally, it was a treat to be part of Dr. Davis's entourage today, going around ensuring the first day of school with so many students. It was amazing to see all the learning that was already taking place. I learned the 7 mindsets at Kelly Mill Middle School. I watched students practicing their stamina at CFK. I got a little teary-eyed at Center for Achievement, where my daughter, who could not read and attended for the first time and couldn't even show up on a map test, is now an honor student at Spring Valley High School. And finally, I got to witness a superstar in the making at Polo Road Elementary School, where we learned we have 5 senses. Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agostini. Mr. Shad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was also part of that entourage, and it was just great seeing a lot of the expectant minds there. And I want to congratulate all the successful openings of our school, especially with Jackson Creek, our newest school. It's an exciting time for Richland District 2, our family. We're definitely fueling the flame. As I said, you know, we saw some of the expectant eyes of our students, some relieved, but also proud faces of our parents. hopefully our revived and welcoming arms of our teachers, staff, and instructional leaders. I just would encourage our parents, who are great stakeholders in this process, to keep that enthusiasm, that motivation, and taking those photos on the first day of school, and just make sure you continue to do that, especially on those long nights with your students and having projects that need to be done. Because your teachers, I promise you, are just as concerned about your student as you are. So just always keep that in mind. We have to be a collective, with this collective spirit, and with our new superintendent, and with our board, we want to provide that support, those opportunities, so that your child will realize their purpose in life and their God-given abilities. We thank you all so much for all that you do for us. We thank our district staff. And I also wanted to congratulate Windsor. I had the opportunity, as Libby was talking about, concerning their emphasis on joy as well as diversity and inclusion. They opened up their facility a few weeks ago, and I think they've done it more than once, but I participated as an attorney with South Carolina Appleseed, helping members of our Hispanic population so that they can have peace of mind as it relates to the political climate and the students that, their students and what they go through in terms of trauma, making sure that they have a future if and when something actually occurs to with their parents. And last but not least, I wanted to congratulate our most recent graduate of Richland Northeast High School, Mrs. Grimes. I do hope that every student is inspired by her dedication and determination to see it through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shad. Dr. Carson Parker.
Okay. The recognitions this evening were just wonderful. Again, especially Mrs. Willie Dale Grimes upon her graduation. That was just something. Thank you, Abby, and everyone who's worked closely with the summer food program. That's been phenomenal. That's really been phenomenal. And congratulations to our fellow board members for earning their new levels of boardmanship. Thank you. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Carson Parker. Dr. Elkins Johnson.
I want to say that we had a great start for the first day of school, and I know that we welcome our students. We were very excited, very happy. Students were excited. Just wanted to remind teachers, educators, faculty, and staff that our students, when they come in, their parents have sent us their very best. And not only should we show that love and respect and compassion and sympathy, but we also should show empathy, not only for today, because we get excited about the first day and the first week, but I want to encourage you to keep that enthusiasm throughout the entire school year, and want to just share a quote that someone sent to me, actually a poem, and it's called "'Cause I Ain't Got a Pencil" by Joshua Dickerson. I woke myself up because we ain't got an alarm clock. Dug in a dirty clothes basket, 'cause ain't got nobody to wash my uniform. Brushed my hair and teeth in the dark, 'cause the lights ain't on. Even got my baby sister ready, 'cause my mama wasn't home. Got us both to school on time to eat us a good breakfast. When I got to class, the teacher fussed, 'cause I ain't got no pencil. So I want to encourage you that sometimes students may come before us because they want to be put out. Just remember that we are here because we want to support and provide whatever our students need. So when a student comes without that pencil, that book, that paper, whatever it is, find a way to find that for that student and keep them in class, because that's where they need to be. Thank you and have a great school year.
Thank you, Dr. Elkins Johnson. Ms. Mackey.
Redundant, but as always, thank you for the people in the room, for those who have to be here and those who desire to be here. You're the folks who help to make things work for the 28,000 plus students that we educate in our district. They are dynamic, they are phenomenal, they are eager to learn. For the 3,800 staff members, teachers, supportive employees of this district who work hard, who are diligent, and those people who are behind the scenes make things work for the 28,000. And I just want to give a special thank you to our superintendent, who is positive, supportive, knowledgeable, community and district advocate leader, and a trailblazer. And we are excited to be at our, second school day of this year with you. leading us in a positive direction, and I thank you. It's not just you, but the folks who work with you and for you and in collaboration to make this district work. I appreciate it, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Mr. Manning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Dr. Davis.
I like kumbaya, Mr. Manning. I want to first start off by simply saying today was definitely the first day of school, so I was super excited. As I shared this morning on the news, I could barely sleep last night. Just really pumped up about the first day of school. It's just such a special day. Love seeing the students and their excitement for coming to school, whether it's to show off the new outfit they have, or if you like my kids, you wait 2 weeks before you wear your new outfits because you want to see what everybody else has on first, just in case you change up. But I was so excited to had the opportunity to visit several of our schools today. I think visited a total of 12 schools. Saw some wonderful things, had some great company, and I'm looking forward to the remaining visits for this week with some new cast to travel with me. I'm sure that our other board members will make that trip as well. But we had an opportunity to visit several schools, and Ms. Agostini touched on the visit to Polo Road, where we learned a phenomenal song about the 5 senses. And Dr. Franklin actually recorded a video that's out there of us participating in that experience, which was great. One of my favorite visits today was at CFI because I got an opportunity to visit the kindergarten class first thing this morning. So first day of school in a kindergarten class. I haven't done that in a very long time. And they were full of excitement. The students are every year it seems the students are adjusting quicker and faster to being at school, and the parents are having more and more anxieties and leaving their babies. But it was such a special moment to see that. We opened Jackson Creek today as well, so that's our 20th elementary school. And we opened Jackson Creek with 563 students. I believe all of them showed up. So it was a great start to the school year for them. I also want to thank everyone who came out to support the district's back to school night at the Columbia Fireflies game this past Sunday. Schools received proceeds from the almost 400 tickets that were sold. Also want to give a special thanks to Ms. Grimes as well. Just a true example of just perseverance and a wonderful inspiration. Continuing to give us all lessons is what I was thinking of when I was sitting here watching her in her cap and gown. And so what a phenomenal lady. Today was just a great start to what I'm sure is going to be a remarkable school year. I want to thank all of those who put in the hard work today. So many people, our committed and dedicated employees, our amazing parents, our phenomenal students, and our committed community. And I think we're getting the message out that it definitely takes a community to educate our students. We're looking forward to the next 179 days of keeping the flame burning bright blue. So let's have a phenomenal and a premier school year. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. First, let me say that Dr. Davis showed up well for his first pitch for the Fireflies game, got it across the plate. Even if it was 30 miles an hour, it was still, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. There were scouts up there. They were watching. We hear a lot about the district's direction and the four squares and where we're headed with the strategic plan. But you're going to hear me talk a lot about, as a board, when you're at a board meeting, when we're together, talking about our core 4 values of success, integrity, professionalism, and family. And, you know, it's neat to see this first day of school as I also was part of the entourage going around seeing what it looks like, what that success is going to look like. And just the professionalism that we display. I mean, I want to put a shout out to the custodial teams at each of the schools. I mean, our schools were perfect. And that I just want to make sure they get props for that. It was nice to see the family component of our core value. We had a second new to two. In addition to the teachers new to two, we recently had our classified team up there as well. And that was really neat to see the support of all those who are also part of the team and are looking forward to a great year. As it relates to professionalism and our school board, again, I too want to congratulate those for their next levels in the Boardsmanship Institute. You know, we're regularly working on what it means for professional development. We had the school law conference this weekend, and that was great. And a shout out to Dr. Grant. She presented on behalf of District 2. That was during the opening session, and she and Kathy Mahoney, one of our attorneys, did a great job, and we're very thankful for the work you're doing in your department, and it's just blossomed. We're grateful for that, and wonderful comments as a result. And want to mention also September 12th is our next board meeting. That board meeting, I will be a bit tardy for that meeting. I have been asked to represent our district in Washington, D.C. for a congressional briefing on what it means and what we're doing here related to choice. And as Dr. Davis has mentioned, you know, where we are a district of choice where every school is a great choice. And this program is being sponsored by the National School Boards Association and the National School Boards Action Center, and the title is Our Public Schools Expanding the Horizon of Educational Choice. And there are 3 districts in the whole nation that have been asked to speak, and represented by a superintendent, by communications director, and then also by a board member. And so for Richland, too, to be on the national stage like this is a real honor. It says something about what we do here when it comes to choice. And I think that it can be said that, you know, this is about busting the myth of one-size-fits-all education. And when you really break down choice, you know, and you put some relativity to it, to the private school systems, the other options that are out there, the public school system offers more choice than any other type of program out there as it relates to especially here in Richland too. So I'm pleased to be able to do that. Dr. Elkins Johnson will be starting the meeting. I thank her for that as well. And so with that, I appreciate all you do, and a great first day of school. I now will entertain a motion for adjournment. So moved by Ms. Mackey. Do I have a second? Second by Dr. Caution Parker. And with that, we'll have a hand vote. All in favor? All right, meeting adjourned.